Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So we have a festival lecture. In the sense, we are just trying to prepare our consciousness for Janmashtami. So I don't have a particular verse, but we will chant one verse in due course. It will come. So we have sessions today, tomorrow, today evening, tomorrow morning, tomorrow evening, 3 sessions. Some may feel that, okay, so many sessions for Janmashtami. Again, one festival lecture will be there. But actually this is very insufficient. And why so? What is the importance of Janmashtami? Why should we hear Krishna Katha? And those kind of things, let's dive in. So let me ask this question to both of you. Why does the Lord appear in this material world? Srini and I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Ram, excellent. Yeah, Ram. To guide us in the good direction, to show the path. Okay. Well, Lord came and left. Did we get the path or? But if he showed, why we are confused? Yeah. You can use the mic, it will be nice, because others who are there, they can also hear. Some atheists are there, so we got confused.
Obviously, we are in Kali Yugam, so.
Kali Yuga.
So, I mean, only few lucky will, blessed will.
Sure. Okay. Srini.
As in Bhagavad Gita, we had that Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanirvavati Bharata
Abhyurthanam
Abhyuthanam
Adharmasya Tadatmanam Smrijamyaham.
So whenever adharma is overpowered over the dharma, Lord will come and make it balance.
Balance.
Bring the
Some adharma is also required.
that's what.
You're right. Actually, we should ask ourselves, why should we celebrate Janmashtami? Again and again, every year it keeps coming and we do all elaborate arrangements. So many things we do. Some are making shoe stands, some are going and distributing some passes, some are doing some kirtan decoration. Everybody feels he is doing something very big. क्या किया? तो आया बस आया? No, I'm just, there are others who can think, hey, पूरा दिन मैं लगा हूँ इसमें. I'm engaged in some big service. So what is the purpose? Why should we do this? Why should we celebrate Janmashtami? And why? Who is Krishna? Why should we know about him? He said, Yada yada hi dharmasya. Very important verse. I think most of us would have seen Mahabharat in our growing years. I'm assuming that assumption. There two verses come in the beginning of Mahabharat. One that Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyurthanam adharmasya tadatmanam smrijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam. Like that we have seen, we've heard. So पूछे कोई तो क्या यदा यदा ही धर्मस्य होता आते हैं भगवान religious principles when they are declined धर्मस्य ग्लानिर भवति अभ्युत्थानम I appear abhyurthanam adharmasya tadatmanam smrajamyaham. I come by my own sweet will, I come and I remove all these irreligious principles. And he goes on to say paritranaya sadhunam. I deliver the people who are sadhus. Are you sadhu? Yeah? Then what you are? And okay. You're sadhu? Okay. Paritranaya sadhunam mein you are not coming. Paritrana, only if you are sadhu, Krishna will deliver. Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya cha duskrutam. Are you duskrutam? Miscreants? No. So we are neither sadhu, we are not miscreant. Bhaktas, that is sadhu. You have chance. Yeah. Let's strictly go by the definitions. Paritranaya sadhuna. If you are a sadhu, थोड़ा दाढ़ी वाड़ी है, saffron में हिमालय में बैठे हो तो साधु बोल सकते हैं लोग. Paritranaya sadhunam, then the Lord will deliver. Vinasaya cha duskrutam. If you are duskrutam, the Lord will annihilate the miscreants. So that is the reason he is coming, Paritranaya, because the irreligious principles are arising or they are increasing because of the presence of the duskrutams, miscreants, who are not following the religious principles. So one side they are, increasing the irreligion, so there is an imbalance, and the Lord comes, he kills the miscreants, and he protects the sadhus. Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya cha duskrutam dharma samsthapanarthayam. And to re-establish the principles of religion, the sambhavami yuge yuge. I appear millennium after millennium. As you rightly said, sometimes we are confused because we are not sadhus, we are not also duskrutam. Then in the next verse, the Lord reveals, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti swarjuna. So you may not be sadhu, you may not be a miscreant, you're just a normal person, you fall into that category. Krishna is telling, if you know my janma and karma, if you know my birth and my activities, both of them are divyam, they are transcendental. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha. If you know that in truth, in totality, in completeness, tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti swarjuna. Then when you quit your body, you will not take birth again in this material world. Naiti mameti, you will come back to me, Swarjuna. This is Krishna's assurance. So you say, yeah, I got it. Very nice. So one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Simple, no? So we'll hear about Krishna, we'll know about his activities, we'll know about his birth. At the end of the life, we will not take birth again, we will go back to Krishna. No? Ram is shaking head. Why? What's the problem? Karma is, he's saying, just know about my birth and activities. If you know that in truth, evam yo vetti is to know. Tattvataha tyaktva deham, when you are about to quit your body, when you are quitting the body, punarjanma naiti, no more birth. Mameti, so Arjuna, you will come back to me. The Lord is telling, it's his words. So, done, it's a done deal. So we'll know then that's it. Where is the trick? Then why should we do it every day? I mean, why we celebrate Janmashtami, why we need to know. What is the trick in this verse? Pay attention to that verse and see if you can catch something which is there, which is of is not there, but in this verse, if you see, what is the difficulty in this? Transcendental, okay. Tattvata. What is the problem with Tattvata? Mameti. Acha, what is there, Mameti? Mameti, you'll come to me. What is the problem in that? Shrini? That's what he said, Divyam. Actually, the challenge lies in Tattvataha. We all know about Krishna. We have heard in our life. We all had worshipped also. We have gone to different temples. But the real problem is, how do we know him Tattvataha? In truth, in totality. How do we understand what is that Supreme Lord? Otherwise, imagine if you have no idea who Krishna is, how will you ever understand when Mother Yashoda is coming with a stick and a rope, Krishna is crying? Or how will you ever understand that Krishna goes with his cowherd boys and finds that there are some frogs who are croaking, they imitate that sound? Or how will you ever understand that when there are birds which are flying, the shadows are following them and they are chasing the shadows? Or they go to some cave and they make some sound and there is an echo which is coming. Don't do, don't do, don't do, don't do. So they take names and they shout, don't come, Srini, don't come, don't come, don't come. You will be bewildered. Why is there some ordinary boy, he's doing all these things? Why should we know about it? Or how will you ever know that Krishna has very intimate relationship with the gopis? How will you ever know that Krishna is playing with those cowherd boys who are not ordinary people? Krita punja punja. Krita punja punja is the word that is used in Bhagavatam. Extremely fortunate they're getting a chance to play with Krishna. How will you know that, Nanda Yashoda, Nanda Baba and Yashoda Mai are very special? They've been given this position to become the parents of Krishna. We will never know if we don't know who Krishna is in Tattvata. Otherwise it will appear. Sometimes people ask, जन्माष्टमी स्वामी जी क्या हो रहा है? वो क्रेडल होगा क्या? हमारा बच्चा भी है छोटा छोटा, हमारे पास भी राधा कृष्णा है, उनको हम थोड़ा ये करेंगे, दही हांडी खेलेंगे. This is what Janmashtami means to people. You do that, a lot of people will come. क्या करेंगे? दही हांडी को फोड़ेंगे. That's what Janmashtami means. Or we will play with the cradle. Janmashtami. Yes, that's why the scriptures, we don't need to think in our mind. We don't have to, because our mind has limitations. Let's see what Krishna is telling. He's telling, if you know evam yo vetti tattvataha, that means there is a need for that search for the perfection, a quest for perfection to know Krishna in truth. If somebody understands that, it is not something simple. हाँ तो भगवान दिख रहे हैं ना, उन्हीं का तो बर्थडे है बोलेगा कोई. Somebody can say like that. वो रोज तो आप उन्हीं को, हर साल आप उनको बिठाते हो उधर, ये करते हो. We actually don't know who he is. To know that it is tattvataha, it's not an easy thing. That is why elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned, Manusyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tattvataha. Had it been that easy, knowing the Lord in truth or in totality, the same word tattvataha is used here, everybody would have known it. But here it is mentioned, Manusyanam sahasreshu, out of millions, thousands of people who are trying to endeavor to know the truth. Manusyanam sahasreshu kaschit yadati siddhaye. Thousands and millions of people, one may endeavor. And out of those people who are trying to endeavor, yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tattvataha. One knows me in truth. Leave it. So it's not an easy thing. It's a very rare thing to know Krishna in truth. Kaschin mam vetti tattvataha. So then what should we do? How do we know? What is the process of knowing Krishna? Somebody, as you rightly said, somebody is atheist, somebody is doing some other path, somebody is taking yoga, somebody is doing jnana, somebody is doing something. Actually, the Lord reveals in Bhagavad Gita. What does He reveal? Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yas chasmi tatvatah. Krishna says, only by bhakti you can know me. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yas chasmi tatvatah. Now, why knowing Krishna in truth is difficult? What is the problem? And even if he has mentioned Bhaktya mam abhijanati in 18th chapter, 18.55? 18.55. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tattvato gyantva vishate tad anantaram. After one knows that, he'll come back to my abode. That's what he says. Vishate tad anantaram. Tato mam tattvato gyantva vishate tad anantaram. If by process of bhakti we can know Krishna and we are all engaged in bhakti, so where is the problem? It's a very interesting thing, and our scriptures, our acharyas point out what is the difficulty in knowing Krishna. See, Krishna is telling himself in Bhagavad Gita that Janma karma cha me divyam. Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to die in 7 days. Was Sukadev Goswami very eager to start talking about Krishna? First 9 cantos he is talking about creation, about so many things. What is the supreme absolute truth? Because he is building it up. He is building it up for having that spiritual understanding, to be able to understand the mind of Krishna and how Krishna can be captured by the love of gopis, by the love of cowherd boy, like the simple cowherd boys, his friends, or Nanda Baba and Yashoda. He is building up. Unless we understand, unless we go through this truth, which we don't want to, this tattva we somehow don't like it. Story bataiye Swami ji, kya hai Bhagavan Krishna ka story sunte hain. Directly 10th canto we go. We will not know him because it is not easy. Let's see, there is a very interesting purport. I wanted to share 2 verses with you to say what are the difficulties and why Tattvata is so difficult, and what are the things that we should do to overcome that. So here is, the challenge, as I said, is Tattvataha, which is the biggest challenge. And I wanted to share this purport with you. This is from a Bhagavatam purport. I'll read this purport and we will have some discussion based on this. Here it is, there are a lot of things which are mentioned by Prabhupada, which will give us a hint as to what we need to do, even though we are engaged in bhakti. What are the qualifications? What are the things that we should be reminded of so that our bhakti is proper and not done on a sentimental platform? Srila Rupa Goswami says that if one is offered varied foods but has no appetite, the offering has no value. In a big sacrificial ceremony, there may be many things accumulated to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if there is no devotion, attachment, or love for the Lord, the arrangement is useless. The Lord is complete in himself, and he does not need anything from us. However, if we offer him with a little water, a flower, and a tulasi leaf, he will accept them. Bhakti, devotional service, is the main way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is not a question of arranging huge sacrifices. The priests were regretful, thinking that they were not on the path of devotional service and that their sacrifice was not pleasing to the Lord. This is a very important purport, very interesting purport. Why this Tattvataha is difficult? Sometimes, as I mentioned, we are so busy, caught up in doing elaborate arrangements, we really don't understand what is it that is going to please the Lord. Is the Lord really looking for something like big arrangements, sacrifices, or some big services? Oh, I'm such a big devotee, I have got so much caliber, talent, I'm so wonderful. Lord is not interested in that, because what we forget is that talent, that ability, that capability is also given by the Lord. The challenge of satisfying the Lord is very nicely summed up by Rupa Goswami in this one line which Prabhupada is quoting. That Rupa Goswami says that if one is offered varied foods but has no appetite, the offering has no value. Now imagine, like we had nice prasadam, rice, What else was there? दाल कहाँ था भाई? कौन सा दाल? रसम, okay. Sabji कौन सा? Huh? Payasam. So you had sumptuously, ठीक है, rice, rasam, then sabji and payasam. And you're also tired, and you're sitting relaxed, पेट भरा हुआ है. Suddenly Jagannath Prabhu from somewhere comes with 2 plates, not one, 2 plates of 16 items. Kachori, chole, bature, so many things. And he's keeping. Prabhu सब आपके लिए लाया हो, दिल से अपने, आपके लिए खाओ. Okay? Now, how much will you be able to eat? Why are you not able to eat? Because you are already full. Similarly, the Vedic instruction is the Lord is Om Purnamada. He's full with all opulences. He has got everything. He does not need our, whatever we are offering. Okay, I'm thinking I've made so much contribution. So many people I made them, chant. So many people I did this thing. I am giving so much of money. I'm doing this big service. He is not looking for that. A person who's full already, he is not looking for what varieties of food that you have brought. What is he looking for? He's saying here, Prabhupada is mentioning, in a big sacrificial ceremony, there may be many things accumulated to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if there is no devotion, attachment, or love for the Lord, the arrangement is useless. We may be engaged in devotional service, but if the reason behind engaging in devotional service, if there is no devotion, if there is no attachment, there is no love for the Lord, then that whole thing is useless. This is a very important point. When we want to know the Lord, actually what is the difference between the gopis or the cowherd boys or Nanda Baba and Yashoda? They are in extreme love and devotion to the Supreme Lord. Their heart is filled with that. They don't think too much. Kitna time lagega, kitna effort lagega, kitna bada kaam hai, how big, how difficult it is. Nothing. They just have one intention: how I can please the Lord. If that thing is missing in the life, if that is not there, then it's not going to help. Now, how do we develop this? Where does this come from? So one factor, few things we have to keep in mind. If when you go back and recollect, okay, I went and attended a Janmashtami class, I don't remember anything. Everything they were saying was making sense, but nothing was going in my mind. That's not a good thing. First thing that I told was that the Lord appears. The reason for Lord's appearance was yada yada hi dharmasya paritranaya sadhunam. But you may say that I am not a sadhu, not a miscreant. Where do I fall? Then Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam. If you know my activities and my birth, in truth, tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti swarjuna. We should be hankering, we should be eagering. There should be a quest, there should be a thirst that I should reach that stage of perfection of knowing Krishna in tatvatah. But how do we know that? So Krishna reveals that bhaktya mam abhijanati. You can know me by bhakti. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah. And then we saw that we may be engaged in devotional service, but if we lack this important thing called devotion, attachment or love for the Lord, then the arrangement is useless. And Prabhupada goes on to say this beautiful verse, Patram pushpam phalam toyam, yome bhaktya prayachati, tadaham bhakti upahritam, asnati prayatatmanaha. Very interesting. Actually, the Lord is not seeing. He can accept even water, even a flower and a tulasi leaf, provided it is offered with bhakti. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. That word bhaktya is very important. Tadaham bhaktim upahritam. Again the word bhakti comes, because he is seeing in the heart. If we give our heart to him, if we give with love and devotion we do that activity, maybe very small, only for a tiny little thing that I am doing, but with all sincerity, with that love and devotion, the Lord gets purchased by that. There is a word that is used there, prayatatmanaha. Bhaktya asnami prayatatmanaha. Prayatatmanaha means who is becoming a pure soul, whose heart is pure from all the contaminations. When the heart is pure from all the contamination, the Lord accepts it. Any service that we are doing, the purpose behind doing that service should be this mood where we are not forgetting, where we are always remembering that with love, with devotion, with attachment, this is my Lord. I am His part and parcel. Let me do it for His satisfaction. Let me please Him. Nothing else is important. That mood, that bhakti, and that purpose that, my heart becomes cleansed, we do that, then it will satisfy the Lord. Then Prabhupada says bhakti, devotional service, is the main way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is not a question of arranging huge sacrifices. The priests were regretful, thinking that they were not on the path of devotional service and that their sacrifice was not pleasing to the Lord. This last line of the purport, the priests were regretful, thinking that they were not on the path of devotional service and that their sacrifice was not pleasing to the Lord, is a very important mood that all our acharyas exhibit. Nobody says that I am a perfect devotee, I am sincere devotee, I have been engaging in devotional service. Why did Lord put me in this kind of difficult situation? That's only a neophyte devotee who thinks like that. An advanced devotee always thinks that I am not having the right qualification. I am not engaging in the right mood to the Lord. I don't have that. They always are, they're seeing only faults. They're thinking, I don't have that qualifications to be engaged in devotional service. And Prabhupada and our acharyas say that is the right mood. We should also always feel that I don't really have that qualifications. But somehow, by the mercy of the Lord, by mercy of the pure devotee spiritual master, I've been given this chance. Let me do this wholeheartedly. What is the verse that we have, our Shikshastakam, last verse? क्या मीनिंग है? Quite correct, but thoda ulta pulta hai, but theek hai, this you are there. Ashlishya, the word ashlishya means to embrace. Ashlishya va padaratam pinashtu. Pinashtu is like you put something under your feet and just squeeze it. Like, you just trample it completely and crush it. Ashlishya va padaratam pinashtu mam. Marma hatam karotuba. He may break my heart also. What is that? Adarshanam marmahatam. He may become invisible to me. Yatha tatha va vidadhata lampato matprananatha sayeva naparaha. Despite all these things, he is free to do anything. I don't have any of these things, but I have given my heart to him. He may embrace me, he may squeeze me, he may make my heart broken-hearted. It can happen. But a devotee's understanding is that this is my Lord. He has got all right, every right to do anything. Sayeva prananatha sayeva napara. He's my prananatha. He's the owner of my life. I have dedicated to him. Whatever he wants to do, my devotion to him will not change, will not shake. Very important attitude to have. Now, when we speak about bhakti, where does this bhakti come from? To know that, if you can keep your mobile in silent mode, it will be very nice. This is an instruction which comes in the conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami. And this instruction is given, anybody knows where? Which place? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he instructed Sanatana Goswami. Prayag is Rupa Goswami. This is Gaya, Kashi. So Prayag is Allahabad, where Rupa Goswami was instructed, and Sanatana Goswami was instructed in Kashi, Vanaras. So there, these are all very important things. One is called Rupa Siksha, one is called Sanatana Shiksha. In the dictionary, in the lexicon of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, these two important episodes are known as Rupa Siksha and Sanatana Shiksha. In Sanatana Shiksha, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Shraddhavan jana hai bhakti adhikari, uttama madhyama kanishta shraddha anusari. How do you become adhikari? How do you become a owner of bhakti? How do you become a bhakta? Shraddhavan. Shraddhavan jana hai bhakti adhikari. Uttama madhyama kanishta shraddha anusari. So this the classification of the devotee, somebody is uttama, somebody is madhyama, somebody is kanishta, is based on shraddha, based on faith. So actually in our process of bhakti, in this process of engaging in devotional service to the Supreme Lord, the most key important element is shraddha. In the 9th chapter, which is entitled as the most confidential knowledge, Krishna says, Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Susukhum Pratyaksha Avagamyam Dharmam Susukhum Kartam Abhyayam. Before that he says, Yad Jnatva Moksha Se Asuvad. What is that? First line of that. Idam tu te guhyatamam pravakshyami anasuyave sahitam yajgyantva moksha se asuvad. That's 9.1. And then 9.2 is this one, pratyaksham avagamyam dharmam susukum kartyam abhyam. 9.3, Krishna says, ashraddhadhana purusha. Ashraddhadhana purusha. Vishwakshanani. Ashraddhadhana purusha aprapya mam nivartante mrityu samsara, something like that. Ashraddhadhana purusha dharmasyasya parantapa aprapya mam nivartante mrityu samsara vartamani. Most important thing is we don't have that shraddha. And if you don't have that shraddha, ashraddhadhana purusha, dharmasyasya parantapa aprapya. Prapya is to receive, aprapya, you will not receive me. Aprapya mam nivartante, then if you don't receive me, if you don't get me, then where do you go? Mrityu samsara vartamani. Again you get into the cycle of birth and death. So that is why most important thing in this is shraddha. That I have to have this faith in this. Krishna is telling bhaktya mam abhijanati, and bhakti comes by shraddha. Shraddha, if you see the word shraddha sabde viswasa kahe sudruda nishchaya, Krishna bhakti kaile sarva karma kritta hoy. This is the definition which is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shraddha sabde vishwasa kahe sudruda nishchay. That firm faith is what will take one across this ocean of nations. Now very interestingly, where does this word shraddha used, and how is it used in our scriptures? How it is so important to know, because these are all, as I said, if you are really serious about knowing Krishna in tattvataha, then you have to pay attention to this. Otherwise it is not possible. So this is a very interesting verse. It comes in Bhagavatam, where Vidura is meeting Uddhava. And this verse says, Sa shraddhadhanasya bibardhamana viraktim anyatra karoti pumsaha hare padanusmriti nivritasya samasta dukkha apyayam asudhatte. It's a very, very, very interesting verse. Very powerful verse. If this one verse we can understand, I will say that today's class is a success. Sa shraddhadhanasya vibardhamana viraktim anyatra karoti pumsaha hare padanusmriti nivritasya samasta dukkha apyayam asudhatte. Now in the word-to-word translation of this word shraddhadhanasya, Prabhupada has written the word-to-word translation is one who is anxious to hear. Now, sa shraddhadhanasya, we are sitting here, we are saying it is Krishna Katha, it is preparing our consciousness for Janmashtami. It is important to know that there has to be an anxiety to hear. It should not be like, okay, thum kya kare, jaake sun lete hain. It should not be just business as usual, like, I'm going and listening to something, or I have got so many other things, or people don't even value. They think that what is the need for me to hear? I did some service throughout the day, my body is aching now, I should go back and take rest. मेरा काम हो गया, आज कुकिंग करना था, मैं कर लिया, चुपके से निकल जाना है, कोई कुछ बोले नहीं मेरे को. सा श्रद्धधानस्य विवर्धमाना. The Lord is, Uddhava is telling, sa श्रद्धधानस्य, the topics of Krishna Katha, one should be anxious to hear. Anxiety should be there. I want to know this, what is it? Sa श्रद्धधानस्य विवर्धमाना. When we hear Krishna Katha with anxiety, then there is a viraktim anyatra karoti pumsa. Why we are not able to know Krishna in tattvataha is because we have attraction and attachment for material things. There, that rakta or the attachment is so strong, it doesn't allow us to do this. But here it is mentioned, the process is very simple. If somebody hears Krishna Katha, Sa Shraddhadhanasya Vivardhamana Viraktim Anyatra Karoti Pumsaha. Viraktim actually is translated by Prabhupada as indifference. For one who is anxious to engage constantly in hearing such topics, Krishna Katha, gradually increases his indifference towards all other things. You are looking for a solution, how I can develop an indifference to this material things, obligations, this distractions, this attractions, this weaknesses of heart. How do I overcome this and come? Here is the solution. For one who is anxious to engage constantly in hearing such topics, Krishna Katha, gradually increases his indifference towards all other things. He will gradually develop an indifference to other things. And such constant remembrance of the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna, Hare Padanusmriti Nivritasya. Just by remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, Nivritasya, one will experience transcendental bliss. Such constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna by the devotee who has achieved transcendental bliss vanquishes all his miseries without delay. Samasta dukkha apyayam asudhatte. Sometimes we feel overburdened, overwhelmed with all the miseries and difficulties. We don't know what to do. Hare padanus smriti nivritasya samasta dukkha pyayam asudhatte. So if one is anxious to hear sa shraddhadhanasya vibruddhamana Krishna Katha, then viraktim anyatra karoti pumsa. First thing is he'll develop an indifference towards material things. Second thing is Hare Padanus Smriti Nivritasya. He will experience a transcendental bliss and all the miseries. Samasta dukkha apyayam. How long it will take? Will it take a lot of time for this miseries to go? Asudhatte. Immediately, without delay, this will come to an end. It will be vanquished. Apyayam asudhatte. Now this verse, as I was mentioning, because see, by bhakti we can know the Lord in truth, in totality. Tattvataha. Bhaktya mam avijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvataha. But bhakti also has to be done with devotion, attachment and love for the Lord. And where does this bhakti come? From Shraddha. Shraddha Anusari. Bhakti is developed from Shraddha. So here Shraddha is translated by Prabhupada as one who is anxious to hear. It's a very important purport which Prabhupada is talking about this. Let's just pay attention to this purport which Prabhupada has mentioned in this verse. We must certainly know that on the absolute plane, Krishna Katha and Krishna are one and the same. There is no difference. Actually, these are all very transcendental things. These are all very confidential things. To understand that Krishna was playing with some cowherd boys, was doing some ordinary activities, unless we know his position and the position of his devotees surrounding him, we will just not be able to understand this. That's why people become, oh, your Krishna, he married 16,108 wives. He had affairs with gopis. Or he ran away from battle. And then go into some kind of other tangential thing. They don't understand who Krishna is. That is why Bhagavatam is preparing ourselves. It is this first 9 cantos are meant to elevate us in our consciousness, to have that spiritual understanding to be able to appreciate the 10th canto. So here it is mentioned, we must certainly know that on the absolute plane, Krishna Katha and Krishna are one and the same. The Lord is the absolute truth, and therefore his name, form, quality, etc., which are all understood to be Krishna Katha, are non-different from him. Bhagavad Gita being spoken by the Lord is as good as the Lord himself. When a sincere devotee reads Bhagavad Gita, this is as good as seeing the Lord face to face in his personal presence. But this is not so for the mundane wrangler. All the potencies of the Lord are there when one reads Bhagavad Gita, provided it is read in the way recommended in the Gita by the Lord himself. One cannot foolishly manufacture an interpretation of Bhagavad Gita and still bring about transcendental benefit. Anyone who tries to squeeze some artificial meaning or interpretation from Bhagavad Gita for the ulterior motive is not Shraddhadhana Purusha, one engaged anxiously in bona fide hearing of Krishna Katha. Such a person cannot derive any benefit from reading Bhagavad Gita, however great a scholar he may be in the estimation of a layman. The Shraddhadhana or faithful devotee can actually derive all the benefits of Bhagavad Gita, because by the omnipotency of the Lord, he achieves the transcendental bliss which vanquishes attachments and nullifies all concomitant material miseries. Only the devotee by his factual experience can understand the import of this verse spoken by Vidura. The pure devotee of the Lord enjoys life by constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord by hearing Krishna Katha. For such a devotee, there is no such thing as material existence, and the much advertised bliss of Brahmananda is like a fig for the devotees who is in the midst of the transcendental ocean of bliss. Such a wonderful purport and such a powerful purport. Let's see if I just break down. There are few important points. It's actually unfair from this kind of a purport you highlight some points, but for our mundane mind, which is so anxious and so restless and so looking for some fruitive things, it doesn't catch us. But my suggestion is, read this purport in your leisure. You'll find wonderful gems. Let me highlight few things. Yeah, when a sincere devotee reads Bhagavad Gita, this is as good as seeing the Lord face to face in his personal presence. But this is not for the mundane wrangler. Actually, what happens if, sometimes when we read a purport of Prabhupada and try to give a title for ourselves, what is it that this purport trying to say? I would say that this purport is telling what is the effect of reading Bhagavad Gita, or how to read Bhagavad Gita well. When a sincere devotee reads Bhagavad Gita, this is as good as seeing the Lord face to face in his personal presence. But this is not so for the mundane wrangler. We can see the Lord face to face by reading his books, Bhagavad Gita. This is a wonderful revelation. Actually, the Lord is present. We can see him like we are seeing any other person. Prabhupada is saying, when a sincere devotee reads Bhagavad Gita, this is as good as seeing the Lord face to face in his personal presence. But as the first thing that we have been seeing is the word that is used is Shraddhadhana. Anyone who tries to squeeze some artificial meaning or interpretation from Bhagavad Gita for an ulterior motive is not Shraddhadhana Pumsa. So what is this Shraddhadhana? Shraddhadhana means I should be very anxious to engage in devotional service. There should be an anxiety. How do we understand this word anxiety? There is a place where Prabhupada explains this. Imagine a newlywed lady goes to somebody's house, the husband's house. She is very anxious that whatever she is doing is going to please her husband, her in-laws. So she is she is particular that she should not displease them. So what she does, she has to cook, and she is not an expert cook. So she calls her mother, saying that I am making this particular sabji, how should I do it? Then the mother, she is an expert cook, so she tells, oh, don't worry, just mix this in this proportion, cook it for this much time, allow it to cool, and then serve it. And bingo, it works, and everybody is pleased. But the mood in which she is doing is that anxiety, that nobody should get disturbed. That anxiety is an important thing in hearing. If somebody is hearing anxiously, if he is anxious to hear Krishna Katha, that is where Sashraddhadhana Pumsaha. When he is hearing anxiously, then he'll develop an indifference to this material world. What is stopping us to know Krishna in totality or in truth is that we are not engaging in bhakti in the right mood. And what is stopping us? Because we are attached or we are distracted to so many material things. But here it is mentioned, one will develop an indifference to this material world. What is the word indifference? What does it mean? What is the difference between the word indifference and detachment? Yes. Alas? Callous? Okay. That is detachment. Is there a difference between detachment and indifference? Yeah, that is very nicely explained in this verse of Bhagavad Gita. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drushtva nivartate. As you rightly said, sometimes when the circumstances force us, let's say we are not well, we are having some disease, and the doctor has advised us not to take some food. We may not take it because we are forced under the circumstances. But rasavarjam, there is a taste which is still there within, it has not gone. So Vishaya vinivartante, we are artificially trying to renounce niraharasya dehina, but rasavarjam is still there. Actually, rasavarjam, rasopyasya is summarizing the first two lines. But param drushtva, when somebody develops a higher taste or somebody gets a gets an experience of the Supreme Lord, then he is able to overcome this. He becomes indifferent to this. There is a difference between detachment and indifferent. One becomes indifferent. It is not like I'm artificially trying to control myself from this sense gratification or sense objects. No. Now I have developed a higher taste. I have experienced param drushtva. Then I am indifferent to this. The example which Prabhupada gives is that of children when they are playing with toys. When they grow up and they become adult, they are not attached. They are not developing a detachment. Oh no, I should not be playing. This takes away a lot of time from my life. I should not be doing that. They are indifferent to this. Rasavarjyam rasopyasya param drushtva. So if somebody is hearing with Shraddha, Shraddha Dhana, so if somebody is hearing, then he develops an indifference, virakti to this material world. And that helps him, Hare Padanusmriti. Hare Padanusmriti Nivritasya, that develops a remembrance of the Lord which gives transcendental bliss, and samasta dukkha apyayam asudhatte. All the material miseries will come to an end. The conclusion of that purport has very beautiful line where Prabhupada is writing, only the devotee by his factual experience can understand the import of this verse spoken by Vidura. It's not easy to understand what these people are telling. What is this Janmashtami? Who's Krishna? Only a devotee by his factual experience. This is an important point, this point that Prabhupada is highlighting here, by his factual experience. Actually, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, many scholars take it as an intellectual exercise. That we will read this and intellectually understand everything. We'll figure it out. Maths tum lagao, physics mein lagata hu, dono milke maths physics ko tod denge. Like we do our material things. That way we can't understand this. There is a very nice example I had heard. Imagine Vishnu, being a connoisseur of food, was told by Badri that today he is going to make nice gulab jamun. So Vishnu has been waiting when the offering time will be over and the prasadam will be ready. Now in a big bowl, the gulab jamuns, big gulab jamuns are kept. And Vishnu comes and then he puts his hands behind and he smells. It's very nice. Looks like properly done. Soaked in the sugar syrup. The nice aroma is coming. And then he touches the bowl and he feels it's hot. Oh, this is this is the right temperature for this to have. And then in his mind he speculates. If a gulab jamun is served with this kind of aroma, fragrance, with this much of temperature, actually it will satisfy the appetite of people. It will have the following impacts. But he's not tasting it. He's intellectually doing all those kind of things. That is not what gulab jamuns are meant for. One has to put it in mouth and should just melt. Or Prabhupada gives the example of in a honey bottle where little bit of honey is leaking. Instead of removing the cap and putting a spoon and taking a scoop and putting it in the mouth and relishing it, somebody is just licking it from this thing. Intellectually we will try to understand. Cannot be understood. Only the devotee by his factual experience can understand the import of this verse spoken by Vidura. Pure devotee of the Lord enjoys life by constantly remembering. It's not a life of, my God, what to do? I'm deprived of sense gratification. Why? I've become a sadhu, I'm a devotee. I can't do anything. Pure devotee of the Lord enjoys life by constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, by hearing Krishna Katha. So some people here, say, अरे बाबा मेरे को बोल रहे हैं सुनने के लिए, मैं तो कहीं छुप के भाग के कहीं जाता हूँ. We have not developed all the anarthas, unwanted things in our heart is not gone. That is why we are having all this, problems. We don't know what is to be done. We want to run away. We want to do something. And that also is not done in the right mood. The pure devotee of the Lord enjoys life by constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, by hearing Krishna Katha. For such a devotee, there is no such thing as material existence. And the much advertised bliss of Brahmananda is like a fig for the devotee who is in the midst of transcendental ocean of bliss. You are enjoying in a transcendental ocean of bliss, somebody gives a fig. Just take this, I'm already enjoying in the nice ocean of bliss. Why would I care for this Brahmananda? So the real reason why the Lord appears, it's not just yada yada hi dharmasya. It's not just paritranaya sadhuna. is none of those things. They are all there. When somebody is coming new, we tell them all these verses. The real reason why the Lord appears is so that He can give this wonderful pastimes which we can speak, we can relish, we can discuss, and get a detachment from this material world, understand the transcendental position of the Lord, understand our transcendental position and the impermanence of this material world and our existence in this material world, and purify our activities, achieve that perfection, and go back to Him. This is when the 10th canto, the description of the Lord comes. Before that, Sukadev Goswami is telling, Kalau Janishya Mananam Dukkha Soka Tamonudam Anugrahaya Bhaktanam Supunyam Vyatanad Yashaha. Kalau Janishya Mananam, people who are going to take birth in Kali Yuga, you and me, all of us. Dukkha Soka Tamonudam. Dukkha, Soka, and Tama. Dukkha is misery, Soka is lamentation, Tama is this ignorance. Nudam, it actually gets destroyed. Kalau Janishya Mananam Dukkha Soka Tamo Nudam Anugrahaya Bhaktanam, and to give mercy to the devotees. Supunyam Vyatanodyashaha. The Lord performs this wonderful, very glorious activities, and they are very pious. They are supunyam. And when somebody hears that, all these things are vanished from his hearts. To show causeless mercy to the devotees who take birth in the future in this age of Kali, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna acted in such a way that simply by remembering Him, one will be freed from all the lamentation and unhappiness of this material existence. In other words, He acted so that all future devotees, by accepting the instructions of Krishna consciousness stated in Bhagavad Gita, could be relieved from the pangs of material existence. We all experience this. None of us are exception to this. We go through some situations which are terrible, which are really problematic, difficult thing, and we wonder, we lament, why am I put into this kind of a situation? I didn't want it at all. Here is a solution. Here is a solution if we remember the Lord, if we are anxious to hear, if we are anxious to engage in His devotional service, and to, just the future generation, whoever is going to come in this Kali Yuga, to relieve all our miseries, the Lord performs those wonderful pastimes. So by remembering them, one becomes free from all the lamentation and the unhappiness of material existence. To conclude our time together, the next verse I'll just take and then we will close. Yasmin Satkarna Piyushe. How do you drink? I'll give you a glass of very nice nectarian juice. You drink it by what? How do you drink it? By your mouth. But here is another kind of drinking which is mentioned in this. Yasmin Satkarna Piyuse. When somebody drinks in through the ear holes. Yasmin Satkarna Piyuse. Yasha Tirtha Vare Sakrit. Shrota Anjalir Upasprishya. Dhunute Karma Vasanam. Dhunute is to wash it away, to cleanse Karma Vasanam. This mind, heart which is filled with this Karma Vasanam, the desire to enjoy this material world, gets completely cleansed. Yasas tirthe vare sakrat. Even if one just hears for once, Shrotanjalir upasprishya. Shrota Anjali, like you drink, sometimes you make your hand like this to take the water and drink it in the palm. So Shrotanjali, like that our ear can become an Anjali, and if in that Anjali, Yasya Tirtha Vare Sakrit, when we hear this wonderful pastimes of the Lord, that becomes a bridge in the ocean, and that water, that when it flows through that with the Shrotanjali, then it dhunute karma vasanam, it actually removes all the material desires, material fruitive activities. Simply by receiving the glories of the Lord through purified transcendental ears, the devotees of the Lord are immediately freed from the strong material desires and engagement in fruitive activities. So such is the power of hearing Krishna Katha. The 10th canto is filled with wonderful nectarian pastimes, but always we get into that, we don't really understand what is the Supreme Absolute Truth and how we can know it. So these are some of the steps. If we follow, there is a chance that we can know it. I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or comments. Any question? Yeah.
in the verse that you showed, 9.24.61,
Mm-hmm.
the translation it is said to show causeless mercy to the devotees who take birth in the future in this age of Kali.
Mm-hmm.
The Supreme Lord acted in such a way that simply by remembering Him.
Mm-hmm.
So such a way, referring to what, bro? Like, is it a
I
specific
mean,
way?
that is there even in the first canto. When the Lord performs this human-like pastimes, first 9 cantos also has got the incarnation of the Lord and different activities performed, but they are not as attractive as when the Lord appears as a human-like. So that really attracts. I mean, just a small kid doing some wonderful things, even the core of atheist, his heart will melt. So that's why the Lord performs this wonderful pastimes, and the pinnacle of those pastimes is the exhibition of rasa dance with gopis. So if somebody goes and understands this and really, sees that he can also be one of them with the Lord performing those pastimes, automatically he develops that quest for that knowing the Lord in Tattvataha comes. So he did that so that people in Kali Yuga, who are anyway distracted, who are having so many problems, prayana alpa aiso sabhya kalo asmin yuge jana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya upadruta, they will also get attracted. That's the reason. So it refers to that pastimes that the Lord did in such a way. So what happened was, Parikshit, before hearing this, Sukadev Goswami summarized the whole Krishna Lila in one verse. That's all. I mean, that verse I don't have it right now, but in just one verse he said, Krishna took birth, he killed Kamsa, a few things he said, and that's all. It's over. So Parikshit was said, I mean, what's going on? I've been waiting all along, and you finished it in one verse. I'm not done. You have to explain everything that I need to know. Don't worry. And even if the questions that I have not asked, assume that there is a question asked and explain that also. So that is the eagerness, that is the shraddha, that is the faith that is required to overcome this ocean of nations. It's not about logic, it's not about arguments, it's not about jnana. It's doing the bhakti, but doing the bhakti with the right mood, which gets generated from the shraddha, and that shraddha is eagerly or anxiously hearing, anxiously engaging in devotional service, which leads to everything.
One more question, bro. Like now, we know that we have to start from the first canto and then go to the 10th canto. If someone has gone through first canto and then gradually to the 10th canto, and say they reread it again and again, so at what point can they continue to read only from the 10th canto? Means, is it that till the end we should always also embrace the other cantos, or?
No, I mean, I would say the first 9 cantos are minimum that one needs to finish to go to 10th canto. That's the sequence which Prabhupada has said. But once you have done it for your study purposes or for your to go deep dive into this, you can pick anything anywhere and can do. That is okay. But to understand the Supreme Lord and to directly jump into that confidential pastimes, it will not make sense to any of those things if you have not gone through the understanding of who the Lord is. Why is He creating this material world? Who are we and who are those devotees? Krita Punja Punja, that word that is used by Bhagavatam. That is why Tattvata is difficult. Going into the pastimes is easy. One pastime you start Kalya, okay, Kalya. It attracts our mind. But to be able to appreciate it even more, even finer, we need to see the Siddhantas, the Tattvata. Siddhanta bolye chitta na kare alas. Iha hoite chitta lage sudruha manas. Chaitanya Charitamrita Krishna Das Kaviraj says. Siddhanta bolye chitte na karo alas. Don't put it in the back seat. Baad mein dekhunga, philosophical conclusions. No, they are very important. Iha hoite chitta lage sudruha manus. Whatever you want to relish, whatever you want to enjoy, you will relish it even more. Iha hoite chitta lage sudruha manus. You will have a strong attachment to know and learn that, relish that. Totukura.
Understanding this transcendental nature, what is the we are so much entangled with in the material world. We have logical mind, and having that connection, right? Whatever we think, right, is from the logical only. But how to be in that transcendental nature, right? Means we are the souls and supreme soul. We are continuously aspiring for his mercy and for his based on whatever we go through in the ordinary life. So it's sometimes on and off, on and off. We go to the temple, we celebrate, and we again continue, and then we again next festival, and again we do it. But to continuously being that in that attachment, right? So what practices that we can do?
Good question. See, if you see the way Bhagavad Gita is unfolded, or the way Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord. First chapter, Arjuna is giving lots of reasons for not fighting. There'll be Varna Sankara, there'll be Papa Ivam Shrayad. I mean, there'll be sins. I'll be overcome with sins. What is the point having this kingdom when there is no one else? How will I enjoy this kingdom? Goes on and on. Moral, ethical, dharmic, all the things that we are saying. Attachments come. These are all there. When Krishna begins to speak, how does he start this? Very interesting. That is the solution. That is the clue. Krishna says, Asocyan anvasochastum pragyavadamscha vasase. Gatasun nagatasumscha nanusochanti pandita. Asocyan anvasochastum pragya. When you are talking like a learned man, you are giving so many things. Big things you are saying, but you are lamenting for things which is not worthy of lamentation. First fundamental thing why this problem is there is because we have not understood the difference between matter and spirit. We have not understood the difference between body and soul. Theoretically we know. Krishna goes on to speak, Natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme janadhipa nachaiva na bhavishyama sarve vayam atha param. There was never a time when you didn't exist, nor I, nor all these kings. First person, second person, third person, plural. In past we were there. You were there in past. How old are you? 40. Before 40, where you were? You were there in a different body. This is Krishna saying, Natve vaham jatunasam. How long will you be? Maybe another 100 years. After that, will you be there? 140 years. Maybe if you are there, okay, 200 years. 240 your age. Will you be there? Nobody has lived till that long now. Definitely we would have gone. But Krishna is saying in future also we are there. Natve vaham jatunasam natvam neme janadhipa. Only we are seeing the present and we are thinking these are all mine. Because we are not convinced. Then he goes on to say, dehinosmin yatha dehe. Some people say, आप लोग तो पुनर्जन्म में बिलीव करते हैं ना, है कि नहीं? मरने के बाद आपको एक दूसरा बॉडी मिलता है, ऐसे आप लोग बोलते हैं. Forget about next life. This life itself we are changing bodies. Punarjanma is not a thing which happens only at the time of death. Since the time you have taken birth, छोटा बॉडी था क्या बड़ा ऐसे ही था? छोटा था ना? किधर गया वो? Where is that body gone? We have gone to school, the body grew, we say हम बड़े हो गए. But the body is constantly changing. Dehi knows me, and there is a difference between Dehi and Deha. These distinctions which Krishna brings are very powerful. Dehi knows me yatha dehe, like the proprietor of the body, Dehi, yatha dehe, in this yatha and tatha, in this body is constantly changing from kaumaram yauvanam jara, from that of a childhood to young man to old man. Tatha, similarly, dehantara, at the time of death, when the body has become useless, Dehi takes another body. Dhiras tatra na muhyati. A person who is intelligent, sober, he is not bewildered by this. So when he builds this, the first thing he says is understand the difference between matter and spirit. Understand who you are. You are eternal. You were there in past. You are there in this present moment. You will be in future. But the bodies are changing. So when you understand that, when you realize that, then the attachment, attraction for all these material worlds will cease. Otherwise, the bewilderment will remain. So Krishna's argument of removing all the illusions and doubts of Arjuna was to elevate himself to the spiritual platform. When we are operating from the spiritual platform, we see that this is a temporary sojourn of the body. We have till the birth, from birth to death, and I should utilize this for knowing him in totality. Then things become different. Versus where you are thinking, I am this body, ये तो मेरा ही है, तो मैं तो ये सबको maintain करूँगा ही. That kind of a feeling. But you will be gone. When you came, how many dresses you had with you? Hey? When you go, nothing goes with you. They take away also everything. In between, whatever comes, we say this is all mine. मेरा है ये सब, अहम ममेति। ये ड्रेस मेरा है, ये घर मेरा है, ये बच्चे मेरे हैं, सब मेरे हैं। कौन है किसका? दिस इज विचित्र संसार. So when one goes to that spiritual platform, he is able to see in a detached way. The detachment is a byproduct, it comes. Use my. Yes.
You were saying like when we go, like we don't go with anything, right? Some correction is needed there.
अच्छा, you take something.
आप ही बताइए.
मुझे तो पता नहीं है.
Okay, so Swami Prabhupada says like we got this human life after some 80,000 births.
84. Okay.
80,000 births, like right from animals to different forms,
Uh,
and finally this form. Okay. So yeah, it means like previously there were some other forms also, but
Yeah.
by some good conduct or something like that, we have achieved in this place. Maybe like we are born in India.
Yeah, achha, so if you are referring to the subtle body, it goes with you.
Yes.
The activities that you are doing and the desires, that goes to the next.
Exactly.
Is that what you're?
So yeah, so when we become old and when we like complete our life, pass away, so what comes with us is like the account of karma actually. The whatever good we have done, whatever bad we have done, so that determines our next position.
Yeah. Utkramantam stitam vapi. What is that word? Bhunjanam. Not bad. After that, very beautiful example actually Krishna gives in 15th chapter.
Yes,
Utkramantam stitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudha nanu pashyanti jnana chakshusha. So the verse actually says utkramantam is to quit body. Stitam, when we are there in this body. Utkramantam stitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam. Or when we are enjoying the fruitive activities. There is something which is constant. Vimudha nanu pashyanti jnana chakshusha. I was talking about Sariram yadabapnoti yatchapi utkramati shvarha grihitvaitwani samyati vayur gandhan ivasayat. Like the air which is carrying the fragrance of something, like a flower garden, from one place to another, similarly the subtle body takes the soul from one body to another. So when the subtle body is going, all the vasanas, all the karmas that we have done, it all goes with that. So the desire to enjoy material world in a particular unique way, it gets carried forward from our previous life. I was talking about gross material things. Any other question? Have something to share, you can share. We'll also laugh. So anyway, this is Tattvataha. We will see some very interesting aspect of Leela of Krishna. Actually, Tattvataha is more important than Leela, but we are conditioned soul. So we will hear some Leelas of Krishna also tomorrow and see how wonderful those pastimes and how so many things to learn from that, and how so trivial, useless, filthy, abominable things we are thinking very important in our life, and we are holding them so tight, so strong. So we will see that, and hope by this process of hearing, by this simple endeavor to know about Krishna in Tattvataha, will help us to be more eager, anxious to welcome Krishna in our life. With that we will stop. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam